Let's continue with the top 10 rankings at each position for fantasy baseball. It's time for the glamour position of... Wait, actually, hold on. Check. No, I'm sorry. This is catchers. Yeah, let's do catchers. So you might not think of fantasy goodness when you think of catchers, but look, there's still some young, rising players who can help you in multiple categories and some veteran sluggers that can give you power. It's official. The number one catcher in baseball is 25-year-old Adley Rutschman for Baltimore. You don't have to take my word for it either. Not only is he the number one catcher being drafted in high-stakes leagues early this season, he's the number one offensive rated catcher by quite a bit according to ATC projections. Last year, went over 20 home runs and 80 RBIs. Pretty much a lock to do it again if he stays healthy. And this is the great thing. At a position where so many teams platoon, we see guys get off days. Rutschman's a young buck, and so last year he managed 687 plate appearances. He's going to be in the heart of that dynamic Baltimore offense, and so that's what you're looking for, a guy who's out there almost every day, and his plate discipline is really admirable. He has, for somebody especially who's so good defensively at a demanding position, a 13.4% walk rate. So there are some catchers who probably get you a little bit more power, but his batting average will be right up there near the top, and he's going to help you in pretty much every category except steals, but that goes for pretty much every other catcher except one. And that catcher is my number 2, JT Realmuto, who had been the top dog in fantasy for the last couple years because he can get you power and speed. Last year, 16 stolen bases along with 20 home runs. That's the kind of fantasy profile you're looking for. Now, the one thing is his batting average did dip. He was at least above or near league average, but last year did take a step back. His plate discipline also took a step down. Hit 252 a year ago, projected to hit 253 this coming year. It's hard to say whether maybe it's just another year added on to body of a catcher, or maybe something to do with this offense missing some parts early in the season, with Bryce Harper missing a month, Hoskins out for the year. Either way, if he's going to continue to steal bases and pop about 20 home runs, yeah, he's still going to be one of the best catchers in fantasy. At number 3, I'm going to go with another catcher who doesn't see too many off days, Will Smith for the Dodgers. Being part of that loaded Dodgers lineup is definitely a good thing. Now with Smith, it's more power first. His batting average has hovered right around the 260 mark. It has been at least consistent, if nothing else. The last 3 years, 258, 260, 261. Look, there are not a lot of catchers who really can promise you a much better average than that. And you know he's also good in the power department, although that did actually take a step back for him last year. 19 home runs and 76 RBIs. I think that number should go up a little bit. So he's solid. He's also consistent. You know what? Maybe he doesn't have another gear. Maybe the ceiling is kind of what we've seen already. He's fairly young, but again, he's been in the majors now a couple of seasons. I think if you could just take what he gave you last year, you'll be okay with it because, again, this is somebody who has that great plate discipline, not going to have prolonged slumps, and he's definitely in a lineup that can boost his counting stats. Now, you knew it wouldn't be long before we got to a Contreras. Which one is it? William Contreras is up next. I'm actually a little bit surprised because his ADP right now places him third among catchers, and I guess I get it, but I don't really know why we're expecting him to really do better than last year. I'll be honest, last year I was really high on William Contreras, maybe a little too high, and he performed fairly adequately, but I didn't see the power outburst I really was hoping for. I think he's got it in there. It just didn't happen, and there's a reason for that. He did hit 17 home runs, but 38 doubles because his launch angle dropped quite a bit. The fly ball rate isn't high enough to make him really a power hitter. Now, on the one hand, his batting average was really good, 289. This is one of the catchers where you feel like he can help you in that category specifically. But what if he remains under 20 home runs? What if this is a guy who kind of is a Yandy Diaz-ish player where it's like you feel like the power should be better and it isn't? Maybe it'll take a while. I don't really know the answer, but I do know that I feel like number 3 in terms of catcher rankings feels a little bullish on him. I think he is a good hitter, but I don't know if there's another level here. So at number 5, right behind William Contreras, let's go with Wilson Contreras. kind of a different profile here. Contreras, should I say Wilson Contreras for the Cardinals. This is somebody who's going to give you a little bit more power, just a little, but the batting average won't be as high. For a catcher, it's fine. It is what it is. Now, in terms of power, well, he's got 4 straight seasons, full seasons, we're just going to forget 2020, of at least 20-plus home runs. One thing I thought was interesting is I noticed his maximum exit velocity has been ticking up each season. I'm kind of wondering if at some point, and I don't know that it'll happen this year, but I wonder if we'll see some sort of a late career power surge, sort of like a Sal Perez. Now, I don't know that Contreras will ever hit 40-plus home runs, but I do think that he's got 25 or 30 in him at some point. So I don't think that speculation is enough for me to put him over his brother or any of those other top catchers I already mentioned. But I still think Wilson Contreras is a pretty nice value, especially because he's going significantly later than his brother in early drafts. All right, now I get to talk about Cal Raleigh in Seattle. According to early ADP, he's number 8 catcher off the board. MLB right now's rankings of real-life catchers, he's number 9. For me, I got him at 6. I'm a little bit higher because I really feel he's a little bit underappreciated. This is a catcher who hit 30 home runs last year, and 19 of those came after the All-Star break. He's also slated to hit cleanup as of right now in that lineup, which is a good thing. I mean, Seattle already, we know, has some firepower in there. It should be slightly better this year, and he has a chance to drive in a lot of runs. He's also good enough defensively and offensively that he's not going to leave the lineup very often. And that is really important at a position, again, where there's so few everyday players. He's one of the closest things you'll get to that. He had 569 plate appearances in 2023 and projected again to be among the top 10 in plate appearances among catcher. The only way he's a liability here is batting average. When you look at a position where, other than the top 5, let's say, players, you're going to be getting a batting average around 250 or lower, it's okay. You're going to have to sacrifice something. Now, number 7, let's go with Yanner Diaz for the Houston Astros. Very pleasant surprise for the team and for fantasy owners who picked him up. His first full season in the majors went for 23 home runs and hit 282. Now, I feel like this is a player that's going to be ranked a little bit higher than this for a lot of not only analysts but also fantasy owners on draft day. Will value him because he's a little younger than some of the other players I've mentioned. Maybe just a little more exciting because he's this shiny new toy that we have at this position that doesn't have a lot of star players. I do worry a little bit because this guy just does not walk at all. If he does happen to get into a slump, he's not going to be bailed out by being able to get on base and score runs that way. So I don't know that I want to make the same mistake I made with William Contreras and think, wow, he had 23 home runs in just over half a season. That means he can go with 40 next year. It doesn't always happen that way. So I'll gladly take Diaz as a top 10 player at this position, but I don't want to overvalue him based on, half a season. And number 8, old reliable Sal Perez. Ever since his massive 2021 season, feels like it's been disappointing ever since, but it's actually just been as good as he was before that season. His barrel rate has gone down since then, and look, we know we're not ever getting that sort of season again from him, but he still went for 23 dingers and 80 RBIs. And again, at a position where 250 is, you'll take it kind of average, that's what he gives you. And look, the Royals weren't that great last year on offense. They may not be one of the best offenses in the league, but some of these players who kind of underachieved last year, I feel like they can get better. This whole lineup could be a little bit more consistent. I know he's not exciting anymore, but I got no problem waiting on the position and getting Perez because, just people aren't as into him anymore. He still should produce just like he has for most of his career. At number 9, let's talk Sean Murphy for the Atlanta Braves. With the way he started the season and the way the Braves hit all year long, you kind of look and feel like his numbers should have been better, but really he falls in line with all the last several players I talked about, and I have him below Perez because his numbers were less than Perez. 21 home runs, 68 RBIs, 251 average. So power, average, all kind of the same, except he somehow drove in fewer runs despite playing for the Braves instead of the Royals. And despite being a really good defensive catcher, he is going to share some time with Travis d'Arnaud. And so Murphy, I can't really put him much higher. I know on MLB's list, he's number 3, but that's including defense, reality. In fantasy, I think there is surprisingly somewhat of a cap on what Murphy can do. And now we get to number 10. You might be wondering, who is that second catcher from the same team that you were talking about? Well, it's going to be catcher turned DH, Mitch Garver, who's now in Seattle. Garver played all of 28 games behind the plate last year, and that's just good enough to qualify the position in fantasy, but not have the wear and tear on his body. And this year, because he's in Seattle where they already have Raleigh, Garver is going to be a full-time DH. That's why they got him. It's for his bat, clearly, not his glove. He'll be the emergency backup catcher, sure, but he's somebody who can be out there pretty much every day and mash, and that's what he does. They signed him to a 2-year deal, and coming off a pretty strong season for the Rangers, they got him to hit in the heart of that lineup. Yeah, we're going to see 2 catchers in the heart of the order for the Mariners, and that's not a bad thing. Now, injuries have been a problem for him throughout his career, but guess what? He doesn't even have to take the field, be behind the plate anymore. He can just stroll out there every couple of innings and mash. He is actually one of the best fastball hitters in the game. He knows how to pull the ball. Kind of a one-trick pony, but that trick works really well. He can help you in the power category. He should have a decent average. And again, where they're going to bat him in a still pretty decent offense, he'll drive in a surprising amount of runs too. And here's the best part. Nobody's really on Garver this year, and so if you want to really wait for your starting catcher, you can wait till close to pick 200 to snag him. If you didn't catch the top 10 first base rankings for this coming season, you can catch that video right here.